This week, we saw further evidence, if we actually needed it, that things are going very well for the rich, but not for almost anyone else. The Dow Jones closed well over 15,000 points on Friday. Yet, in a new poll, only 27% believe the economy will get better in the next 12 months. That's a new low for the year. Maybe it's because so much of that bull market money is just going to a few people. More than 19% of household income in America last year went to the richest 1%. That's the biggest share since the 1920s. We're now marking the 5-year anniversary of the market crash, which President Obama will address on Monday. But in the first 3 years after that crash, 95% of the income gains flowed to those top earners. Their income increased nearly a third. For everyone else, the needle barely moved. In fact, the 1% seemed to have captured more than 2/3 of all income growth in the last 2 decades. But long-term trend or not, the president is the one taking the hit for it. President Obama's approval numbers are down. And most people think Republicans would do a better job than Democrats on the economy. I suspect that opinion will change as people learn about the GOP's plans. Joining me now is Jared Bernstein from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Jared, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, Jared, you and I have been talking about this quite a bit this week. And, it used to be that really everybody kind of shared in the pain. Like when you think about the Iraq War, when you think about World War II, everybody kind of shared in the pain of that war. And now you see, the rich getting richer, the middle class and low income people really taking the hit.
I think you raise an important point because folks may not realize, because these statistics go a long ways back. You said something like about 20% of the national income accrues to the top 1%. If you go back about 30 years, it was half of that. And if you actually look at how income gains were distributed in the post-war years, say the mid-40s to the mid-70s, every income group just about doubled. So it's not only that folks were getting ahead, but they were getting ahead at very similar rates across the income scale. And of course, that's very different today.
Right. So the Republican plan, so far as I can, aside from, cutting all kinds of great programs that actually help people succeed, the Republican plan seems to be, as voiced by Senator Inhofe, I have a sound from him that I'll play in just a moment, though, it seems to be let's have more spending for the military, but don't raise those taxes on anybody. Here, let's take a listen.
The president has so degraded the military in his budget. That first year, you remember that. That was when he did away with our only fifth-generation fighter, did away with our lift capacity, the C-17 Future Combat System.
So, Inhofe is actually talking about a system that, in terms of defense spending, from 1997 to 2013, it goes up. And we know that the specific fifth-generation fighter that he's talking about, the F-35, it replaced the F-22, which is what Obama canceled, meaning Senator Inhofe was a little bit off on his facts, but more importantly, with all of this talk about increases in defense spending, as you've told me, they are not going to let us raise taxes on the wealthy, which means that money has to come from programs.
Correct. I mean, if you actually kind of pull back and look at the Republican economic plan, generally speaking, and this goes back to not just Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan and their campaign, but this really goes back to Ronald Reagan. What I'm going to say sounds a little glib, but I think it's actually true. If you looked at the plan, you would conclude that rich people don't have enough money and poor people have too much. The idea is that we need to cut anything that helps low-income people because it's somehow keeping them from participating in the economy or whatever. And at the same time, this is the trickle-down supply side part. Cut income taxes very sharply for those at the top. And you're exactly right. You very quickly run into this buzzsaw. If you try to maintain those kinds of ideas in your head, where at the same time you want to increase defense spending but take taxes off the table, in fact, lower taxes for those at the very top, the only place to go is on programs that everybody else depends on, and that's what the budget does. It is Robin Hood in reverse, big time.
And as the president talked about, we need to have more investments so that we don't have Robin Hood in reverse. Thank you, Jared Bernstein.
Thank you.
That does it for me. Thanks so much for joining us. Please don't forget to share your thoughts. Find us on Facebook and tweet us at MSNBC Disrupt.